Audiobook Incorporated presents an unabridged recording of Christmas in the Adirondacks by William H. Murray, narrated by John McDonough. These stories were originally published in 1897. This recording is copyrighted 1997 by Recorded Books Incorporated. William H. Murray, born in 1840, was a Boston clergyman of considerable reputation, pastor of the historic and prestigious Park Street Church. He was known as a preacher of power and eloquence, and Bostonians of all ranks flocked to his sermons on Sundays. Yet, to the dismay of some of the Park Street deacons, the young Murray was an avid horseman and sportsman, and a regular camper in the summers in the woods of the Adirondacks. There, he, his wife, and often other friends would gather at isolated lakeside campsites to hunt, fish, hike, and enjoy the pristine wilderness far from the noise and commotion of Boston. He often left camp for days on end, and with only a guide, to explore the more remote lakes and mountainsides of the region. A compulsive storyteller, Murray would often entertain the gathering in the evenings with tales of his experiences in the woods. Occasionally, he would write them down. In 1869, somewhat on a whim, he submitted them to Ticknor and Fields, the famous Boston publishers. Murray later would write of his meeting with Mr. Fields. "Mr. Murray," he said, "your method of interpreting nature and your humor are unlike anything that we have ever seen. This little book, I'm confident, is destined to a great career. We have decided to reopen our list this spring and illustrate it in the best manner time will permit." And in this way, that little volume known as Murray's Adventures in the Wilderness was given to the public, which inaugurated not only the great popular movement toward the Adirondacks and introduced the new regime of recreation, but which has given me a name which overshadows those by which I was christened. Publication of Murray's book, an instant bestseller, caused what was later to be known as Murray's Rush upon the Adirondacks. Hundreds of visitors flocked to the area in the summer of 1869, hoping to enjoy the healthful and spiritually uplifting benefits of clean mountain air, awe-inspiring scenery, and communion with nature. The anxious deacons of the Park Street Church began to worry over rumors that their pastor used sensational mannerisms and oratory. They proposed to Murray the idea that he go on a speaking tour in order to appear before as many people as possible, thereby proving to all his propriety in public. Murray felt, "If I write a lecture to kill off these charges of sensationalism, I had better take a subject that is sensational, something that gives me every opportunity to be a sensationalist and an oratorical mountebank. And that subject is certainly the Adirondack life and experience in the woods." 3 years later, Murray had performed before more than 500 audiences and 500,000 people. After his lecture, he often would be detained for another hour, giving details and recommendation on travel arrangements and lodging for those who hoped to have a wilderness adventure of their own. William H. Murray, known now as Adirondack Murray, had sparked a national interest in the outdoor life. 7 years after the publication of Adventures in the Wilderness, Murray attended an author's luncheon hosted by his publisher. There, he got into a discussion with Ralph Waldo Emerson on what makes good fiction. Emerson believed a good story caused both laughter and tears, and that a female character was necessary to achieve this end. Murray, taking up Emerson's challenge to try an all-male story, created the Adirondack trapper John Norton, whom he described as big-bodied, big-headed, big-hearted, wise, humorous, humane, and brave. He typifies to me the old-fashioned New England man, who, having lived his life in the woods, has developed in him those virtues and qualities of head and heart, of mind and soul, in harmony with his lifelong surroundings. 2 volumes of John Norton's stories were published. Somewhat later, he penned How John Norton the Trapper Kept His Christmas for a special holiday issue of Harper's Weekly magazine. This story, quite by accident, sent Murray out once more onto the Lyceum circuit. While visiting in Burlington, Vermont, he was asked to perform, and the only ready thing to hand was his Christmas story. It met with such a response that, Murray writes, "After that I read it 47 nights in succession, and after that, with a break of only a night or 2 here or there. I kept on reading it till I had read it 172 nights in all. Not because I wanted to, but because it took the people's fancy and they insisted on hearing it." Ultimately, he gave over 500 readings of the story in theaters and auditoriums to constant acclaim. Recorded Books is pleased to bring you this story, along with another holiday tale featuring John Norton, as narrated by our own John McDonough. It has been said, what Charles Dickens did for England in his immortal Christmas Carol, Murray has done for America. Indeed, we hope that you too will agree that this magical story can be enjoyed time after time, year after year. And now, How John Norton the Trapper Kept His Christmas.
How John Norton the Trapper Kept His Christmas. Chapter 1. A cabin. A cabin in the woods. In the cabin, a great fireplace piled high with logs, fiercely ablaze. On either side of the broad hearthstone, a hound sat on his haunches, looking gravely, as only a hound in a meditative mood can, into the glowing fire. In the center of the cabin, whose every nook and corner was bright with the ruddy firelight, stood a wooden table strongly built and solid. At the table sat John Norton, poring over a book large of size, with wooden covers bound in leather, brown with age, and smooth as with the handling of many generations. The whitened head of the old man was bowed over the broad page, on which one hand rested, with the forefinger marking the sentence. A cabin in the woods, filled with firelight, a table, a book, an old man studying the book. This was the scene on Christmas Eve. Outside, the earth was white with snow, and in the blue sky above the snow was the white moon. "It says here," said the trapper, speaking to himself, "it says here, 'Give to him that lacketh, and from him that hath not, withhold not thine hand.' It be a good sayin' for certain, and the world would be a good deal better off, as I conceit, if the folks follered the sayin' a little more closely." And here the old man paused a moment, and with his hand still resting on the page, and his forefinger still pointing at the sentence, seemed pondering what he had been reading. At last he broke the silence again, saying, "Yes, the world would be a good deal better off if the folks in it follered the sayin'." And then he added,
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.